Hello, welcome to another episode with me, Onyx. I guess I call this another episode of Full Circle. And there is a lot I want to share with you. I guess I don't know. This lady at work said I should be a life coach, and I'm like, I am. Uh so I'm kind of thinking of opening up those services, but those services just happen automatically as well with every interaction. I mean, I'm always sharing the latest thought on my mind. Um, but today, I really want to talk about how fundamentally we're kind of taught we're broken. So it's almost like you're tripped at the beginning of the race of life, like if it was a race, you go around the track, whatever. That's just the analogy. And we're fundamentally tripped at the very beginning with all these assumptions and all these, like, I would say, past generations and cultural programming putting what they think is best onto us. They're trying to educate us and make us civilized. um, behave, be good boy, bad boy, whatever it is. We somehow get the message that we aren't okay. So then we need to problem solve. So they trick you into thinking the problem is you. And really, the problem is the programming. And I think once we kind of objectify it, instead of like pointing fingers at individual people, like my mom and dad or my religion, and then recalling certain events with individuals, if we just collectively own it objectively and say, this is programming, this is like on a mass scale and on a smaller scale, we're going to have encounters. Uh, and I can only speak from my experience, but my experience is whether it was consciously full out bigotry or whether it was subtle, you know, uh, environmental likes and dislikes, you you swallow that bitter pill and it poisons you to an extent. And we forget our fundamental nature, that we are born divine, that all of our capabilities and all of our resources are found within ourselves. Um, and it's not just on the DNA level, it goes beyond that. It goes into your energetic anatomy, it goes into quantum physics and resonance fields, whatever you would like to say. There's no real way you can describe how infinite and awesome you actually are. But the language we use and the way we describe things, uh, it leads us kind of in the wrong direction. So a long story short is somehow I started thinking, and it was more like on a subtle subliminal level, something was fundamentally wrong with me. It just seemed like from day one I wasn't acceptable. There was never enough to win that approval. And to the point where I quickly realized there was no point in trying. So feelings of failure and defeat and inadequacy, feeling abnormal and strange, feeling toxic, feeling like the devil, feeling like public enemy number one, just feeling like the world was crushing me. Uh, you know, it kind of puts you in this state of self defeat, total exhaustion, and absolute frustration. And then this little spark of life that's going, why do I still want good for myself? Why do I still care about other people? How come these interactions seem so painful? Yet something like that, it's like bittersweet. And so searching high and low, you know, searching out different religions, spiritualities, philosophies, practicing shamanism, practicing magic, all kinds of stuff. And those were all great adventures, great experiences, but they really weren't necessary because the fundamental truth is you're already perfect, whole, and complete as you are. And you have to, I would say, have an experience of your own divinity, have an experience of your infinite nature, of your indestructible self. You have to have it could happen in a moment or it can be a long extended experience, but you have to somehow gain the knowledge that you're more than your body, you're more than the character on stage, you're more than the story, you're more than your history. And you're not bound by circumstances. You're not bound uh, by what life is showing you, even in this present moment. Because whatever life is showing you, those building blocks were your past. So it's fading. And so you have to have an experience of your timeless, infinite nature. And in my mind, this is true awakening. The degree of awakening isn't so important because even if you just had a teaspoon and that would start the hunger, the want, and the need, and you would instinctively start moving that direction. It will become instinctual. It will be like you're starting to wake up from a bad dream, a memory. It will start to call to you, and you'll get hungrier and hungrier. And pretty soon, you're going to find yourself in full awakening. So, if you've had a taste of your awesomeness, of your feeling blessed, without a reference to any religious idea, symbol, anyone else, if it's purely just an experience authentically within yourself, um, no cultural labels on it, no symbols, you know, then I would say you've had genuine awakening and it changes you. And that hunger never goes away. And so the only way to satisfy that hunger is to continue drinking more, eating more of this ambrosia, this knowledge, this truth. So, and I'm going to say also there's different levels besides just awakening up. There's so, it's like endless unfolding in every single way. Okay. So, however, it's going to be coming to you or has happened to you, awesome, and it's just right for you. So, this video, I kind of want to talk about how we give our power away on a daily basis. And this power, love, wisdom, power is something I stress. I first heard that in Elizabeth Clare Prophet's book. And I thought the book was crazy. Like, it made no sense. I thought it was jumbled together. It wasn't coherent to me because it was information I didn't need. And it was presented in a way I didn't need. So that's why it was so it did not compute to my type of mind. But the one thing I remember, because I couldn't even get through the book, okay? But was love, wisdom, power. And then, I put it aside for decades. And then it came up when I was going through the mystery school. One of my fellow students, fellow teachers, as we worked together for a short period of time, she was into kind of like blending spirituality and like religion into mystery school teachings. And so she brought up love, wisdom, power, and the threefold flame. I was like, that's cool. Okay, thanks. Bye. And then later on, during an apprenticeship with a shaman, I noticed the reason why we ended our apprenticeship slash friendship, all the above, is because they were heavily emphasizing spiritually bypassing with the love principle and leaving out the wisdom principle. She naturally had the power and naturally had the love, but when you just kept doing more power, more love, more power, more love, we lost the wisdom. We lost being centered. We lost reason. We lost groundedness. And so I decided that it was time for me to leave that situation. And, you know, still one of my very best friends. Uh, I think very positive. But that environment was, that was just life saying, bro, you got your lessons and now it's time to leave. Like, you have to know when it's time to enter, and you also have to know when it's time to leave. So, my time on the stage of life and that experience was over. And then to honor uh, my shaman master, whoever awesome she is, you once you have graduated, now the real work begins. Now you have to put into practice everything you learned. So, and then things make sense. You picked up on so much more in subtle ways, like I did the toxic programming growing up with people. Uh, but then you also get good programming. You also get the nectar of life. Sitting at your guru's feet, you get so much more than just the teachings. Living with your guru, you get so much more. So I basically lived with my guru for 8 years. And she permitted it. And it was a very good experience. We learned so much from each other. So honestly, one of the best experiences of my life. And in a weird way, I could almost say one of the worst experiences of my life. So there's that polarity happening and the contrast, creating clarity. But moving on, so you're going to go through experiences and you're going to go through all kinds of circumstances. Uh, but that doesn't mean you need to give your power away in the moment to these situations that might seem out of control or nonsensical or overpowering, however it is. And then you don't need to hold on to them for decades. You don't need to make that a part of your personality, a part of the character on stage. And so, having a taste of your infinite nature, it's so much easier to let go. And patience is automatically acquired. There's a lot, it's like all this like mystical text, all this supernatural knowledge, makes sense once you've had an awakening of some type. It makes sense. And then it's not hard to, then you understand that most of the occult and spiritual books aren't really saying much, because most of what they're saying, you can't understand it fully until you're having the experience of it. So moving on. So really the experience, do not discount your personal journey. Don't discount your experience is kind of the takeaway on that. Don't the stage of development that you're at, don't discount it. Uh and the state of consciousness you're in, don't discount it. I mean, it's gonna go. You're gonna graduate these states. And I don't know if you'll ever return to those states. You know, I don't know how it will always be new. Uh, so I've moving on in this little video. Uh, I think the fundamental problem for this social illness, this mental dis-ease, this uncomfort in our minds, and the emotional uncomfortability, and I believe the root of it is self abandonment. which would be personal power loss. People feel disempowered and threatened by other people. People give their power away to organizations, other people. They subscribe to other people's truths, uh, other people's methods, in a group. I call it a group think, where everyone is in a certain group thinking the same. They're almost maybe a forced agreement. You're in our group if you use these words, if you say these things, kind of cultish. But of course, they don't realize it because they're awake or they're spiritual, or but really you're creating an agreement, and it's the way you think. And so these group thinks, you may not. So everything can be very backwards. It's not right for you. You're not getting along. You're beating yourself up, going, something's wrong with me. I can't get along with my family. Something's wrong with me. I can't get along with the educational system. Something's wrong with me. I can't get along with people on planet Earth, and it borderlines victimhood. It borderlines being a martyr, because you start to think something must be wrong with me since I can't find it wrong with them, and no one is seeing anything wrong with them. All this wrongness is rightness, and all this rightness is wrongness. You kind of get spun around, and you kind of get confused, and you don't know which direction is up, and you split yourself up. You start to compartmentalize or disassociate, which is really just disassociation. And then you're going to doctors, and you're going to therapists, and you're going to healers, and you're going to psychics, and you're just dishing out your energy and dishing out your energy, and you're digging yourself into a hole, and this hole becomes a void, and then it becomes worse because your void, your hole, your power loss, your self-abandonment is so scattered and so out there, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And you listen harder, and you struggle, and you learn Sanskrit, and you do yoga, and you and you're doing all these things. Then you switch it up, and you go play with shamanism, you switch it up, and then you go do mystery school, and you switch it up. And pretty soon you're on the spiritual circuit doing what everyone else does, and you're sitting under a table. People are chanting and screaming and crying, and cymbals are going off, and singing bowls are ringing. No one has a music degree, so they always sound somehow off. And it becomes kind of like a weird carnival ride in chaos, and everything gets blurry, and you're like, all I wanted to do was be okay with myself. All I wanted to do was find my place in this world, in the universe, and have meaning and value. And now everyone's channeling this and that, and they're all fictional characters, and I don't know what's up anymore. And I'm like, let's bring in. So, I'm just here to kind of flip it on its head. And let's go back to basics. The fundamental issue, you cannot do a race car. You can't unless you first make sure the wheels are on, make sure the engine's working. It goes through a systems check, before it takes off and races down the track and does its thing. So besides all those hours of practice and everything, you have to check that vehicle. And you, the driver, need to be checked. Those things are very basic here on planet Earth, okay? So I'm saying the fundamental root problem, no matter what you pointed at, no matter what experience you had, is self-abandonment. This self-abandonment looks like, I don't love myself enough. I don't value myself. I don't see my worth. and being angry at the world, they're not complying to your expectations. Men these days don't want to be in a relationship. I can't seem to keep a conversation going online. Blah, blah, blah. Like, whatever the excuse is, whatever the disappointment is. My parents, my brother, the conflict, my coworkers, the world, customers, retail agents, whatever it is, the other person on the line. It's like those are outer circumstances. You're still giving your power away. And it's time to start investing in yourself. It's time to bring that power back. And so there is an energetic component towards understanding deeper spiritual truths. You know, you're hungry for this knowledge, but it escapes you. You're hungry for consciousness expansion, leveling up, and you can't. You're like in the deepest, darkest hole. And so you might try some compensation things, some crystals, some plant medicine, and it works for a moment, but then you're stuck back in your pit. You go to a life coach, stuck for a minute, and then it goes back into your pit. Go get a Reiki session, healing energy work, singing bells or gongs and all that weird stuff, and light code chanting and alien transmissions from popular channeler, and nothing stays. You find yourself back in your own little pit. That's the void. And do you see how you're overdoing and overworking and overtrying? And you literally have to do the opposite. Because you're discounting the greatest being, which is yourself. So why people are looking for their higher self, I'm like, bro, you haven't even found yourself first. How are you going to channel anything good? How are you going to be the greatest version of you when you say, I'm not enough? I couldn't possibly reason and think my way through this. I couldn't feel my way through this. I can't trust my instincts. I don't know what I'm doing. So now I need to go ask someone on the other side. I need to go talk to my angel. I need to go talk to my guide. And I need help to predict things, figure out what he and all these other people are thinking. And I'm like, do you not know who you are? Do you not know what you are? Are you buying into other people's stories? I need to read the Akashic Records. I need to go get Akashic Records reading. Why? You are the sum total of your Akashic Records. Your own mind has all that information. Why? I need to go figure out what I'm so concerned about all these other people in my life. Why? You're the only person in your life that will be a constant. And you worrying about them, you're not now in a position to be of service to them. First, serve yourself. So, how do we get our energy back? How do we stop this game? You know, so I have a coworker who is opening up doors by being her perfect self. And so I noticed there's so much storytelling and so much hype and so much energy, so much work going in to being beautiful, to being fun, to being sexy. And I'm like, you're abandoning yourself. You're worried about what the other coworkers think, about how you look and how you dress, and you think we need excitement. You think we need all this in order to accept you, and it's not true. We're either going to like you or we're not. And the ones that like you are meant for you. And the ones that aren't, it's their own personal issue. It's none of your business, and you don't need to associate with that. So you're never going to win someone's love, affection, and you're not going to have those experiences with people who are closed down, who haven't done the inner work. So don't even bother. It's not your problem. Instead, capitalize on the people that do like you, have wonderful experiences with them that validate. You can validate each other all day long. But I was looking at her and I was looking at her life and how she really loves her boyfriend and how she really wants this all to work out and how every little circumstance that isn't going according to plan really throws her emotions out of whack. And, then I noticed that, she goes to therapy and she's bought the book on whatever disorder that she's decided, that they've all agreed on, and she's passed out this book for Christmas to her loved ones. And I'm like, don't you know that you're so invested into this story of who you think you are? You've even bought a manual to support it, and all your conversations are supporting it. When are you going to start having the conversations of something different? Why does, you know, start having conversations about your mental health, how healthy you are, how capable you are, how despite whatever so-called circumstances you have, there's this hidden power and strength about you that's way more interesting than your disability. Way more interesting about your emotional reactions, the intensity. And I'm like, you know what? I've realized you're avoiding intimacy. You're avoiding genuine connection. And you're pushing it away, creating distance and a wall, using your story, using your history, using sensationalism, uh, all your over mental thinking, all your worrying, all your stress, all this noise, all this over the top behavior is a becoming from a fear that you just can't calm down and allow yourself to be accepted by others. And that will dissolve the mask that you're wearing, and it will create transparency and you will be seen, and you're probably afraid you're going to be judged. And how long has this been going on? Your whole life? No wonder why you now go to this therapist, take these medications, and have bought the book of your disorder and passed it out to all your loved ones for Christmas so they could understand you or the character that you're programming and becoming. Like, where is the responsibility? So, she's actually a really good friend, and I've done my best to allow her, like, we have a spiritual connection as well. It goes super cosmic at moments. Uh, but then, I back away and let her have her experience. But this all comes back to this isn't just a her issue. This isn't just a me witnessing it. This is a collective illness. It's an epidemic. It goes on in all of this. And I just kind of want to call it out that the issue isn't exactly a real issue. It's self abandonment, and that happens through behaviors that we've learned and behaviors that we continue to perpetuate, where we really neglect ourselves, where we're really not serving ourselves and being mindful. So the cure is pretty much that. Become aware, become mindful. When you become present, you become clear, you become mindful, you have objectivity, you have that third person perspective, you go into witness mode, your own true authentic self comes in, and you start building a relationship with yourself. And you get to experience your own energy, your own feels that aren't referenced from events that are happening with other people and situations. You're having an experience more on an energetic level, more on a sense of consciousness. And when you start developing that, it's only you. It's not an angel, it's not a guide. In a weird way, it's not your higher self, it is yourself. So we're not going to separate it and say one is better and one is high and one is low, one is more complete, one is not. you're not complete without you, so you're still a part of all of this thing we call self. And so that fills the void. Every moment you spend with yourself, every moment you serve yourself. So, does this conversation serve me? Do these memories serve me? If they don't, throw them away. Make room for more of this self, which is energy, which is consciousness, which is pure being, which is awareness. It's the clear light that the Buddhists talk about. You know, the diamond mind, like it's this indestructible you. And you self realize your infinite nature, and it could happen in a flash. um and after that, the game changes. But I've noticed just choosing what's best for me, staying home or meditating for 5 minutes or hanging out with my favorite crystal, uh has brought me in touch with myself, my own divinity. And so after that, it was, once you have a strong connection with yourself, your higher self automatically happens. Your connection to guides and other beings automatically happens. But don't you think you should arrive to these places, these situations, fully empowered? So think power, think self. When you feel disempowered, you've given yourself away. When you feel empowered, you've amplified and like you've really become more of yourself. So love, wisdom, and power, be all of yourself, all power, all of yourself, all knowing, all wise, all of yourself, all loving. So an empty cup can't give you more. It's empty. So as we pour ourselves out in a culture that conditions you to do that for other people and for the world, do the opposite. So the best way to serve the world is to serve yourself first. The best way to love others is to love yourself first. And that's part of becoming the greatest version of yourself, you know? And so that really remedies the situation. So you are the missing puzzle piece to your puzzle. Put that puzzle piece back in. It will be incomplete without you. So that was actually really good. Class dismissed.